where did you grow up?
Well, in central eastern Pennsylvania, Shenandoah, Pottsville, anthracite coal mining area.
Sorry, we will take that somewhere later. Put down coal mining, because the coal mining trains use the bridge.
Oh yes, I'm sure that coal from that area was transported to Boston over the bridge, the Poughkeepsie Highland Railroad Bridge.
I hope they don't mind, but I'd like to just dig right into that. Is that all right?
Oh sure.
Because I know they had basic questions, but that's getting me excited. I'm excited about history, and this is an interesting angle. So, do you, in your research for the book, Bridging the Hudson, did you find that the Poughkeepsie Highland Railroad Bridge was an important facet of industrial transportation?
Very much so. It certainly, lessened the expense of transporting goods back and forth from the New England states to the rest of the United States. Prior to the construction of the bridge, the Hudson River constituted an impediment to transportation. We normally think of rivers as aiding transportation, and they do, and the Hudson was a great north-south artery of commerce, but it's constituted an impediment in the east-west direction. That coal I referred to, the anthracite coal, used to be, prior to the bridge, was transported by D&H, that's Delaware and Hudson Canal, up to the roundout in Kingston, and then some of those boats went across the Hudson River and were offloaded in the Rhinecliff area, and the coal distributed from there. And other boats, well, some of those canal boats were offloaded onto river barges, and the coal went down to New York and other places. Very inefficient process. Whereas once the bridge was constructed, well, what happened? The canal went out of business, but coal became cheaper on the east side of the Hudson River.
All right. Now, how did you conduct your research for the book Bridging the Hudson? Like, where did you find your sources mostly?
Well, I became aware that Carleton maybe was researching a book on the Hudson, and we had been dealing with Conrail in Philadelphia, the Conrail headquarters in Philadelphia, about records referring to the bridge. And the various back and forth, they found a small letter file that they sent to us. They sent to Belsepi, I believe. And then one day, a box arrived that contained, I believe, 141 aperture cards, which were IBM cards containing a bit of film, which is a reduced size photograph of a drawing, one of the original drawings used to construct the bridge. Very interesting. More later as to what we did with those aperture cards. But subsequently, the office in Philadelphia let us know that they found a file cabinet with the records of the bridge. So Carleton Mabey and I went down to Philadelphia and picked up all those records and brought them back. Carleton went through every piece of paper in those 3 or 4 file cabinet drawers and used a lot of that information, in addition to a great deal of other research that he conducted, to write his book.
Had you met Carleton Mabey before?
No, I think my introduction to Carleton came through Belsepi, who Carleton had been dealing with at the time, and I knew Belsepi too at the time.
Well, when did you first move to the Poughkeepsie area?
Oh, 30 years ago, to town of Clinton, which is 15 miles north of Poughkeepsie.
And when did you get involved with the Walkway Over the Hudson project?
Oh, it was probably 1992, when I met Belsepi at the Dutchess County Fair and talked to him at length about his dream to open this bridge as a walkway. Bill had actually rented a booth at the Dutchess County Fair to advertise his intent to, and he sat there alone without any material and spoke to people who came by. Those, historic reconstruction is one of my interests. So of course I talked to him. I chatted with him for quite a long time. And from there, you know, I became a member of the fledgling organization, and time went on.
When did you first get into the restoration of significant structures? Had you worked previously on any?
Oh, yes. I live in a house that dates from probably 1740, and it's taken a lot of rework. I've been involved in the reconstruction, the rehabilitation, I'd say, of some older structures owned by the Clinton Historical Society, that sort of thing. Dealing with people who restore barns, old Dutch barns. There's a lot of those around here.
Can you explain anything about Walkway Over the Hudson as you encountered it right there in 1992 with Bill Seppi? What the impression you got of the organization was?
Oh, okay.
How things were conducted?
Sure. We were really on the ground people, you know. Clothes with our own tools and doing repairs on the bridge itself, particularly at the Highland end of the bridge, moving around timbers and reconstructing the fence and just making the bridge safe and secure. I think we acted like we owned the bridge many years before we actually did come into ownership of it. As I said, a group of guys and women who, you know, did the boots on the ground work involved with rehabbing the bridge. Now,
was the bridge significantly damaged by the fire in 1974?
No. A very small section of it over the Poughkeepsie side had some twisted steel. The deck had burned. The old creosote saturated timbers had burned, quite a few of those. But the basic structure, the track sits on top of the bridge. It is not an integral part of the bridge structure itself. So the track was damaged. Very little of the structural steel was damaged. Subsequently, by the way, that track, that entire deck was removed from the bridge, all the way from Washington Street in Poughkeepsie to the Poughkeepsie shoreline. That happened, probably 88, 89. That had happened before the Walkway Over the Hudson organization was formed.
Let's think for a second. Are there still the twisted train tracks left on top of the bridge?
No, that was all removed. Any of the damaged track was taken out. What remained, the track that remains, extends from the Poughkeepsie shoreline westward, all the way over to the end of the bridge in the town of Highland.
Are there plans in the existing walkway organization with the restoration or the establishment of the walkway to keep the tracks visible, or perhaps?
No, it's necessary to remove the track. I don't know of any rail trail or any bridge restoration that's been successful in leaving the track and then trying to create a walkway as part of the track constitutes a safety hazard and just a general impediment. Makes it more difficult to really do a walkway. And of course there's no intention whatever to run trains or trolleys over the remaining track. So what's there now has to be removed as part of the upgrade of the bridge.
As Walkway Over the Hudson moved towards the current organization, um, were you involved at all in the process of obtaining the title to the bridge, or?
Yes. I know. I was there when we asked Dan Alfonso, who was the majority leader in the Ulster County Legislature. We met in his office one day and asked him to sell us the bridge, and he said yes. Now, what that represented was the tax arrears on the Ulster County portion of the bridge, and they sold those to us for, I think, $1,000, which was a pittance. And then we dispensed in that. By doing that, we dispensed with the tax arrears problem on that side of the river. The tax arrears on the Poughkeepsie side were only forgiven recently by the city of Poughkeepsie. But that was done with, guess what, I think $1. So we got a bargain in that case. In each case, the arrears were on the order of $250,000. Okay, so we obtained those impediments quite inexpensively. The title to the bridge, which is a different matter entirely, came to us, I believe, in 1998 for $1, when Bill Seppi obtained that from the gentleman who was the owner of record.
The forgiveness of the arrears on the Highland side, I would imagine, was most of the reason for your focus on that early in the project, with the walkway efforts.
It was one of several things that had to be done in order to obtain clear title to the bridge. Let's say clear, unencumbered, tax-free title to the bridge.
Before the tax arrears and the title were worked out, was it hard to conduct walkway work on the bridge? Were there issues regarding that?
No, we had pretty good relations there with the property owner, whose property we had to traverse, and with the town of Highland up to a point. And then a disagreement arose, and the town of Highland ordered us to cease and desist working on the bridge.
At what point did that occur?
You know, I'm a little hazy on the dates. I'd have to go back and look at the Carleton's book to see when that occurred. Probably 6 years ago.
And was it a significant retard to progress?
Oh yes, yeah, very much so. After we'd been ordered to stop work on the bridge, work stopped, and we were left with pretty much a what do we do now situation.
Where did the organization go from that point?
Well, a group of the members, it's a membership organization, by the way, dues-paying members, sending in their checks every year to maintain membership status and receive the newsletter and so on. A group of us obtained the membership list and went to that membership with the intent of having an election, a formal election of officers of the bridge organization. And that was, I believe, 2004. We did that. A new slate of officers was elected. The new slate had a different approach to rehabilitating the bridge by using public money, as opposed to guys going out there on Saturdays with their own hammers and nails and rehabbing the bridge. So from there, the new board went forth and cleared up the disagreements that we had with the neighbors and with the town and with the city, and went forth.
Did the organization have issues maintaining membership while all of these internal rearrangements were occurring?
I'd say no. No, the hardcore members stayed. Every organization such as ours has people who come and go on an annual basis. Every year you sign up a bunch of new people, and next year half of them are gone, and so you have to go out and get additional people. No, I don't think we had a difficult time maintaining a viable membership.
All right, we're going to switch.
Oh, you're switching on me? Okay.
Hey, change it up.
Hey, thanks, I'm Jen.
Hi.
So clearly you've been on the bridge since you were talking about your experiences. Can you share some of those specific experiences with us?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Some of your experiences on the actual bridge, like working on it and...
Oh, describe those
Yes,
experiences?
yes.
A lot of fun. Yeah, you know, moving the grates around that we moved around, you know, just removing the old planks and some of the things that were in danger of falling into the river, getting rid of all that stuff. Sure, it's a good way to spend Saturdays in the open air. And,
Did you ever have any concerns about your own safety
oh,
while you were on the bridge?
no, never. No, the bridge is structurally sound. You do have to watch your footing, of course, when you're up there out in the open, out on the deck or the open steelwork. But no, there's no safety problem up there.
And how do you feel about the plans, the current proposed plans for the reconstruction of the bridge?
Oh, I'm ecstatic. I'm thinking, wow, our time has come. You know, we certainly owe a lot of thanks to a lot of different people who have been involved in bringing us to where we are now. And I hope that we will continue, and you know, that all the pieces that are now being worked on will fall into place, and come September of '09, we'll be out there in force, you know, enjoying the view and the weather and the birds flying around and what have you.
Do you have any concerns about the proposed project?
Concerns about?
About the proposed plans?
No, nothing that, other than some minor details.
Okay. I'd like to go back to the book. What was your role in the writing of it or the research of it?
Well, nothing concerned with writing the book. I did discuss different things with Carlton during the process of writing the book, but I had no role in writing the book. That was entirely Carlton's, you know, and we, you know, tried to keep abreast of the historical aspects, whatever we could find that was pertinent to the bridge, and you know, keep Carlton informed. In addition to the material that we found, that the bridge people found, Carlton did a great deal of research on his, apart from us, to the point of filling 76 loose-leaf binders full of notes and clippings and various memorabilia that he located. And all that material he has turned over to us, by the way. And we in turn have contracted with the Quinton Historical Society to be our repository for that material. And that's where it is right now.
So you said that you were fairly involved with the research of the book?
With the...
The research, like some...
No, I would say not.
Okay.
No, not myself.
Okay. Okay, what do you find most interesting about the bridge?
Well, it's an amazing structure. Every time I go out there, I find something new in the details, the way they shaped and fitted the steel members together. The construction method was entirely different than what you'll see today in bridge construction. Today they have the advantage of huge rolled I-beams and various structural shapes. They did not have that in the 1880s. All of those large members on the bridge were built up from plates and small angles and millions of rivets. And and the way the details, the detailing of the shapes, the way they're fitted into each other, just in the way they did it with the original bridge is a marvel. But then they came along in 1906, say 18 years after the original construction, and they added a larger truss down the middle of the bridge. And looking at, I don't know how they did it. It's just an amazing feat that of construction, and the way they were able to fit this new assemblage of whatever, 8,000 ton of steel into the old structure. So I guess you can tell I'm oriented more towards the technical aspects of the bridge rather than the glories of the scenery around the Hudson Valley.
Well, it says here that you're a semi-retired engineer. So, in your studies, like, to become an engineer, did you ever hear about the bridge?
Oh, no. I'm an electrical engineer,
Oh.
Actually, but electrical technology is boring as far as so I really branch out into other things, mechanical and structural.
And you said that you've been living in this area for about 30 years?
Yeah, well, this side of the river, about 30 years. I did live in Woodstock for several years also. And before that, St. Louis and Seattle and eastern Pennsylvania.
What brought you to this area?
A job. I had been working in the defense industry, and I decided to get a real job. And so I came to IBM in 1964, and, well, I've been in the area ever since.
Do you remember the burning of the bridge in 1974?
No, not clearly. I know that some of the people I know who commuted back and forth were very annoyed with the fact that they got home, whatever, 7 hours late that day. But that's all I remember about it. Some people claim you could see the smoke from Kingston, but I cannot attest to that.
So the bridge wasn't really a big part of, like, daily life in this area at that point?
Oh, no. No, I noticed it, crossing the Mid-Hudson Bridge on occasion. I would notice this railroad bridge over there to the north. But that's all. And I just had no real interest or knowledge of, how many trains crossed it, when they did, when they, the fact that the trains had stopped operation after the fire in '74. No, I'd say the bridge became a feature on the horizon for me after I talked to Bill Seppi at the Dutchess County Fair.
How do you think that the people who live in this area perceive the bridge right now?
Today? I cannot guess. I imagine the views run the gamut from, oh, is that a bridge over there? Or where is that bridge? Or, yeah, I've heard those kind of comments from people too. All the way to people who are very, very much interested in seeing it reused for something worthwhile.
And do you think that the bridge is going to get a lot of attention from this whole project? Like, do you think it's
Oh,
going
sure.
to be an integral part of the area?
If we can help that, yeah, it will. Yeah, the bridge should become, well, an icon, of the Hudson Valley. Interestingly enough, it's hard to take a photograph in downtown Poughkeepsie without getting the bridge into the background. And the news media around here publish a lot of photographs that purport to show something. And the caption will identify something, but there's the bridge in the background. And it's just an incidental feature that you always pick up, like the sky.
That's very true. Have you ever heard of any other ideas to recycle the bridge or to, like, change it around?
There have been proposals, I believe, to do things with the bridge. make a shopping center out of it or an apartment house or something like that. Silly things that just cannot be done.
What are some of the specifics of the plan that's being proposed right now?
I'm sorry, the first part?
What are some of the specifics? Like,
Oh.
like its actual uses, or are there like programs?
Well, to take, well, the the technical approach right now is to take the deck off, the existing deck off, and put a new concrete deck on with suitable side rails so people don't fall off. And as far as the features, other than that, I don't think they've been worked out yet. So today, the plan is to essentially just put up a long, very wide runway, you know, perfectly level, from which you can rollerblade or run or walk or do what you care to and enjoy the view and eat your lunch up there or whatever you care to do.
Okay.
I ought to mention that a lot of work has gone on so far. The underwater piers have been inspected twice now in the past year and a half, completely gone over by divers, and those piers, which are incredibly massive, it's hard to believe how big they are. What you see above water is a very small part of the pier, perhaps 10% of it, comparable to an iceberg. You see, 10% of the ice above water, the rest is below. Well, those piers fit that definition exactly. They're huge. They weigh 40,000 ton each. When they get hit occasionally by a barge or whatever, they're not disturbed at all. They're fine. They're in very good condition. The steelwork above has been inspected by climbing inspectors last fall. Bridge inspectors are used to working out of bucket trucks or lifts, and on our bridge they had to learn to climb. So it was a lot of fun working with these guys. A climbing school came in from Tahoe City, California, to teach them how to climb. They had a ball doing it for 10 weeks. They climbed all over the bridge, and very hard to see these guys because they're so, compared with the size of the bridge, there's, you'd have a dozen guys out there with white helmets on. You had to look for these little white specks, which were their helmets, because they're lost in the magnitude of the bridge. The steel's in great shape. Okay, that was a conclusion. But working with them, getting clearances for them to cross our neighbor's property and to work over the railroad tracks and everything, that was a lot of fun.
Right now the bridge is it black?
Yeah,
steel?
yeah, with traces of rust and traces of aluminum and traces of yellow, basically black.
Are there plans to change that, or do you want to keep it?
I don't have any serious plan to paint the bridge. There's no necessity to paint it. So what they call section loss, that is a reduction in the thickness of the steel, is very minor, and that's why you would paint to keep the section loss from occurring. Well, there's not much section loss. This bridge is in great shape. It'll be there for hundreds of years.
I think I got maybe two.
Okay, this one?
All right.
You want to switch again?
Okay.
All right. The first question I have for you again
Hi, Nick.
is hello again. It's good to view you. Do you see the bridge is becoming an important part of perhaps reviving Poughkeepsie and helping the city to grow more, increase the?
That's my hope. I think it can contribute a great deal to improving the waterfront area of Poughkeepsie, and tying Poughkeepsie and its surrounding area into a large trail network used by bicyclists and runners and walkers and hikers and what have you. in general. There are some similar programs or projects that I've visited, and for example, Chattanooga, Tennessee, where they have a bridge, an old trolley bridge crossing the Tennessee River, and that was instrumental in upgrading the downtown area of Chattanooga, and they ended up with a huge aquarium down there in addition to really redoing their waterfront. And one or two others around the country I visited, but nothing as the grandeur nothing as stupendous as our Poughkeepsie Bridge. These other bridges are just minor in length and height and whatever compared with this bridge. This bridge has the potential to outdo all of the others, and hopefully, bring Poughkeepsie and Highland along with it. Both sides of the river are involved in improvements right now.
Let's see, I had one other, at least. Oh, is it windy on the top of the bridge?
Only occasionally. There are times when the wind, it's quite gusty up there. I've lost one or two caps, and there are days when you have to be careful. It can occur, a situation can occur where you have no wind on the shore, where out in the middle above the river it'll be quite windy, but that's rare.
And what was your impression of the involvement of public officials in the state of New York and in the local area, just to support the project?
Recently it's been positive all the way. There might have been some reluctance in the past, in the distant past, to participate, in this wild idea, but for the past year or more, I'd say I could go back further than that. I could say we've had, in the past 3 years or so, we've had nothing but encouragement from the public officials on both sides of the river. And that's really accelerated recently.
Would you say the support of Governor Spitzer is a big plus for the project?
Yes. Oh, definitely. Let us not forget that Governor Pataki was also a supporter of the bridge. We obtained, I believe, 2 governor initiative grants from the Pataki administration to the tune of, I believe, $165,000 between the two of them. And that was definitely pre-Spitzer. Now, with the Spitzer administration, we hope to see a great deal more than that.
Let's see. Have you heard anything particular about the opening of the bridge? Are there any plans to coincide it with the 400-year anniversary of Henry Hudson?
Well, I believe there's a large organization, or a large cadre of people who are hoping to really have the bridge be the centerpiece of a very large quadricentennial celebration. I hope it happens. In 1909, the tricentennial, I suppose they called it, was quite a major event here in downtown Poughkeepsie. I don't think the bridge was a part of that, or at least not a major part. Well, this time it should be a major part.
That's interesting that it wasn't a major part of the tricentennial.
From what I can see from the literature that I have on the 1909 event, I don't think they made a big deal about the bridge. Okay.
Now, did the trains crossing the bridge itself work with the industries in Poughkeepsie in any way when the bridge was in operation?
Well, there were sidings that came off that main line. The bridge became the link over the Hudson between the Maybrook yard, which is 25 miles west of the bridge, and the Hopewell Junction yard, which is 15 miles south of the bridge. No major yards in Poughkeepsie itself. There were sidings that led off to service a few local industries and deliver coal to the Hudson River Psychiatric. Is that one Mid-Hudson or Hudson River? The Psychiatric Institute that's here. And the service, you know, and perhaps a lumber yard and a few things in Poughkeepsie. But other than that, the bridge traffic didn't do a whole lot for Poughkeepsie. I gather that there was a minor passenger station on Parker Avenue, but nothing like the kind of passenger station that you would expect as part of a mainline railroad. Nothing like the New York Central station that's down at the foot of off of Main Street in Poughkeepsie. So I'd say the residents of Poughkeepsie watched the trains go by. I don't think they benefited a whole lot from the presence of the bridge. The train crews that operated those trains probably all came from Milton, from Maybrook, and from Hopewell Junction. There was really no interchange point or crew change point in Poughkeepsie.
Are there any plans to connect the railroad bridge and the train station together to kind of make both access and then historical the connection of the two railroads?
You're speaking of the Metro North train station. Yes, the plan is to create an elevator from near Warriors Park, near the Children's Museum, to get up to the level of the bridge. The bridge, Warriors Park being essentially at sea level, and the bridge deck being at 212 feet above sea level. So, yeah, perhaps an elevator and a staircase to join the two.
Let's think. Do you see the bridge project, the restoration of the bridge, feeding into any other needed? Like, are there any other buildings in Poughkeepsie or in the area that really need this kind of historical attention as well?
Poughkeepsie has a lot of treasures and some really worthwhile structures. Most of them, I think, are in pretty good shape. I'm sure that, you know, the impetus brought about by rehabbing the bridge could be harnessed to improve other older structures around Poughkeepsie. I'd like to see that happen.
Is the or has the bridge project been able to connect in any way with the historical centers for like the Franklin Delano Roosevelt House or the Eleanor Roosevelt's mansion?
Well, we do make a point about these tie-ins, the fact that the Roosevelt Library does have photographs, which, again, you know, here's Franklin and Eleanor here on the lawn, but there's the bridge in the background, just an incidental appearance of the bridge. And that sort of thing is of interest to the Federal Parks people and to the people at the Roosevelt Library. They've been helpful in dredging up some of this older material. Yeah, the tentacles of this bridge, or all the historical aspects of this area, do reach out in all directions. You can't deny them.
Let's think. Yeah, we're gonna switch again.
Oh, okay.
Buy each other time to think.
Earlier when you were talking, you mentioned that you had been working Saturday mornings or Saturdays on the bridge.
Yeah, generally Saturdays would be the work days. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you mentioned a stop work order that was issued.
Yeah, by the town of Highland.
Okay, and what was the reason for that stop work order?
Because we had not taken out a building permit for a structure that we built at the end of the bridge, okay? The town of Highland, regarded what we were doing as coming under their building code, and we were not complying with their requirements. We did not seek approval of our plans, and we just went ahead with it.
And did they offer any steps that you could take so you could continue work, or did they just say, just stop?
Oh, no. No, there was a route that the bridge organization could take to overcome that, and we've done that. Today, we're in compliance with the building department. If we want to go further with the structure that's there presently, we would have to show a couple of things, which we haven't quite done yet. But our intent is to tear down that structure. Okay, so the whole thing becomes moot. You know.
Okay, and then there was a transition in the leadership of the bridge board. Can you talk about that, like what the leadership was like before, like the strategies beforehand and then now?
Yeah, the former board took the view that we could do this as volunteers with private money, contributions from the membership and from the public, the sale of T-shirts and various bridge-related memorabilia at block parties and events around the area. The new board believes that we need public money to do this, and I don't think there's any question that that's, in today's environment, that's necessary. The cost of what we want to do is so high, there's not a chance of ever obtaining those amounts through the sale of T-shirts and apple pies.
So how did you feel about this transition?
Myself?
Yes.
I felt it was necessary. We had to make this change and go to seek public monies and also private money from foundations, let us say.
So what kind of support have you gotten from foundations, like local areas? Or?
We've received many hundreds of thousands of dollars in awards and grants from numerous sources. The IDA, the Industrial Development Agency, for example, here in Dutchess County. The Governor Pataki's initiatives, they came to us a couple of years ago. The Dyson Foundation, of course, who gave us grants earlier than the present participation. And I'm sure there's many, sources out there that don't come to mind at the moment that occurred while the new board was here. And then, of course, most recently, we've been blessed with the major awards from, the expectation of awards from Parks, the New York State Parks Department, the Department of Environmental Conservation. Those are somewhat matching awards. There was the Hinchy earmark, we'll call that. That is from Representative Maurice Hinchy. The earmark in the amount of almost $900,000 became to us as a reimbursable match to our $220-some thousand, administered through the Department of Transportation. There's quite a long list of monies that have become available to us once we went out and looked for them, and more coming. The Parks grant that I just mentioned, that's $500,000. We recently awarded that, very recently. The DEC item was, I believe, 40,000. It all adds up.
What steps did the organization take to obtain these kinds of
What did we
money?
do?
Yes.
Oh, we had to go and ask for them. In the case of some were easier to obtain than others. In the case of the two most recent grants, DEC and Parks, we had to apply for those, actually write, do extensive narratives and meet a lot of their expectations so far as why we should get these monies for our bridge. It's not an easy route to follow, to write and obtain these grants. They're all competitive. So you're out there with other worthwhile projects competing for the same monies.
And along that line, what sort of challenges have you faced as you try to obtain money for this and public support?
Everyone loves this project. The detractors have been few and far apart. I'd say no real objections to what we're trying to do. Some grant monies or initiative monies are harder to get than others. Yeah, that's certainly true. And it just means you have to work harder and longer at it, and eventually you get it.
I'm trying to think. This isn't as easy as it looks in the news.
How about, is there anything else about the bridge that we haven't covered that you'd like to discuss?
Oh, we could go on, a long time, probably. Just one of the little side aspects, this bridge will become a magnet for bird watchers in season. Perhaps this time of year you might see eagles from the bridge, bald eagles. Okay, I've watched them several times. Peregrine falcons, the red-shouldered and red-tailed hawks that we see flitting around. We don't have any birds nesting on the bridge, which is a blessing as far as I'm concerned, because we don't have the resulting corrosion that bird nests bring with them. And that's probably because of the predator birds, the hawks and the others that we have, keeping the seagulls and the others away from the bridge. Be many, many reasons why people will want to wander up there and eat their lunch or meet other people, a good meeting spot, one end of the bridge or the other. Just a way to spend a pleasant day. Something that's very attractive to many older outdoors people is the fact that it's level, perfectly level, unlike most trails. And that helps with a lot of people. The bridge will be handicapped accessible, okay, in all regards.
Who else do you think that the final project will attract? Like what kinds of people?
Well,
for what kinds
everybody, I hope. No exceptions.
Or like what kinds of activities, maybe? What kinds of activities? You mentioned bird watching, like.
Oh, well, good place to have a conversation. Good place to, I don't know that it would be a good spot for picnics or that sort of thing, but certainly the trails at the ends of the bridge will be available for picnicking. Why not? Why not have a picnic up there? 35-foot wide deck. That's plenty of room to put a blanket down and enjoy your lunch. Oh, it's an excellent place for train watching. How could I forget? The bridge crosses over the CSX tracks on the the town of Lloyd side, the Highland side, and they experience probably 25 or more trains a day heading north or south. Very long trains, freight trains. It's a good spot. The railroad buffs that we've had up there have gone, they take a lot of photographs. They really go ape over photographing those trains that pass underneath. On the Poughkeepsie side, we have Amtrak, which runs many trains a day under the bridge, and Metro North, of course, ends just a short distance south of the bridge, but the railroad the station and all the tracks, I think there's 6 tracks pass underneath the bridge on the 6 tracks pass underneath the bridge on the Poughkeepsie side, and I guess on the other side it's a single track, but they get a lot of trains. And the boating traffic, of course. In season, a lot of pleasure boating, going up and down the river, kayaking, a lot to see out there.
I think we may have gotten
Any final thoughts? Anything else you'd like to share with us?
Just back to the construction of the bridge, it was really a stupendous project at the time. It came after the Brooklyn Bridge, of course. The Brooklyn Bridge was opened, I believe, in 1883. This bridge was built using entirely different methods. There were no compressed air locks where men worked underneath the piers, that sort of thing, as they did with the Brooklyn Bridge. The giant caissons that were fabricated from millions of board feet of timber, and then filled with stone and Rosendale cement, which was mined just up the river from here. Truly massive piers, which from the water line, they extend 120 feet down below the water into the muck below. The false work, the tremendous amount of timber that was used to create the false work for this bridge, a method that was developed to create this particular bridge. And today they don't, well, even shortly after building this bridge, they did away with using that much false work, meaning I'm talking about the timber work that they were used to using on masonry bridges. They found they really didn't need that. The fact that they cantilevered the bridge out from well, 2 major piers rather than building straight through trusses saved a lot of time. They did not bring the masonry. The original plan for the bridge had the masonry coming all the way up from the water level up to the underside of the truss work. Some smart engineers said, why are we doing that? And they cut off the masonry 30 feet above the water and used steel columns for the rest of the distance up to the truss work. Saved a great deal, by one estimate, saved 6 months in construction time by doing that. A lot of innovative features were demonstrated by the original builders. I'm very impressed by the bridge.
let's see. We hit up almost all those questions.
Anything else you'd like to mention before we finish up?
Oh, no, I'd say no, not at the present time.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, I think we're all set.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.